All right, everyone. The Mueller investigation keeps having like systemic problems. People who are saying, "Well, oh, the wheels are coming off the cart of the Trump's campaign. The Trump train has broken down. Trump's presidency is a slow-moving disaster." Have you been paying attention for like the last month or so about all the shit going on in the Mueller investigation? And it extends past Mueller too. He's got all these weird associations with people who are provably like, you get a leaked text message and it proves that a bunch of DOJ and FBI agents are biased and they're like, yeah, fucking we want Clinton to win, or squash this out. The tarmac meeting, which Newsweek actually just barely reported on. Thanks Newsweek for waiting that week. I'm sure the Clintons appreciate it. About the tarmac meeting, you'll remember. Bubba Bill and Loretta Lynch. And about how when the FBI heard that this had happened, their immediate reaction was, oh, we need to find who leaked about this. We need to find the person responsible for leaking this. This is a big problem. They didn't say anything about worrying about what they may have mentioned to one another. I guess as long as Bubba Bill claims, hey, it was just an interpersonal thing about like Chelsea's wedding or yoga pants, nobody at the FBI cares. They just assumed that he was telling the truth. Like anybody else would be shown that kind of deference anywhere under the sun, anywhere in the world by an intelligence agency. Just Bubba Bill and his wife. The least honest people get the most deference. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all in the wake of all these text messages being leaked. Or, the Fusion GPS thing. Just don't even talk about that. Don't even bring up the name Fusion GPS. I'm surprised it hasn't been, blocked on Twitter. Like, Twitter's like, you're on the naughty list. You get a week-long suspension for trying to fucking tweet about it. Like somebody's going to pay him off to censor a little bit more. We find out now, according to Trump's transition team head, a bunch of emails from the transition team that have nothing to do, by the way, with apparently like Flynn and Manafort. They're not technically subject to the investigation, properly speaking, were illegally obtained by Mueller. Like they were given over to Mueller without apparently actually any warrant to obtain them. People who were not specifically named, I believe, at the time in which they had to have been turned over. Now, that's a little bit dubious now, don't you think? Do you honestly think that Mueller, let's assume for a second that Mueller, doesn't want Trump to be president, wants to nail him to the wall. Don't you think if there were any real dirt on Trump that you wouldn't have to do such a thing? You'd think that it would stand out like a sore thumb. You've got Flynn, legitimately wrapped up in problems. You certainly got a problem with Manafort. And you'll remember, of course, and this is something, again, people don't want to talk about. If they hate Trump and think he should be or will be impeached, they don't even want to talk about Manafort anymore. They barely want to talk about Flynn, because twice now, the supposed golden egg of looming impeachment that they've been searching for turned out to be nothing more than a ghost, a phantom, an illusion. They get Manafort, and they say, oh, yeah, Manafort's going to be indicted. The entire Twitter sphere of the left, every leftist page on Facebook, every leftist commentator that hates Trump on YouTube, every celebrity, every Democratic politician, oh, Trump's done for this time because there was Russian collusion going on. Then we realize Tony Podesta's named, the brother of Clinton's campaign chair. And we find out that it involves money laundering that happened years and years ago, has nothing to do with 2016 or 2017. All of a sudden, silence. Nobody wants to talk about Manafort's existence anymore. That's funny. He was literally the only thing you wanted to talk about there for about 48 hours, till you realize that you were totally full of shit. Fast forward a few months, Flynn gets indicted. He's done for this time, same thing happens. For about 48 hours, it's all about Michael Flynn. The ABC's goofball there comes out, oh, we've got an inside scoop. Michael Flynn is basically gonna give up, he's gonna tell all. And Trump's done for this time, haha, he asked Flynn to talk to the Russians. We then find out it wasn't an improper telling him to talk to the Russians. It was, thereafter in normal diplomatic terms. In other words, perfectly legal. It's like, yeah, people who might be president conduct diplomacy. They try to get familiar with a few people from other states, that are important trading partners, or they're diplomatically important in some way. Well, no shit, yeah, it's important to be able to talk to Russia, to avoid World War III, I think. Remember when Trump came out, and I think it was McCain and Graham at the time were criticizing his desire not to embargo or sanction the Russians, I think, at the time. And he's like, oh, well, they're dopes and they just are looking for a way to start World War III and should be ashamed of themselves. It's like the funniest thing I ever saw. It is nice to have somebody, a president, who doesn't really give a damn what the media or the other politicians think about what he says. It is a good thing. I think that's a strength, not a weakness. I think it helps us with diplomacy. It doesn't hurt us. Say things, say what you really feel. Don't constantly hide it behind a bunch of pompous bullshit. A bunch of suits, and a bunch of handshakes, and a bunch of a kid kissing ass, basically. Oh, let me bow before you. Oh, you're such a great leader. My great friend, the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates. Somebody you never even fucking met before. You'll meet him twice for like 2 hours total in your whole presidency. Somebody like Obama or Bush wants to kiss ass. No, such a great friend here. Let's shake hands for an inordinate proportion of time. Then, of course, all the media can talk about is, oh, well, Trudeau knows how to shake Trump's hand and, went in really firm and made him look weak. What are you talking about, dude? That's more mindless than when you were reporting on the fact that Trump likes his steak well done as though it was a disqualification for him to hold public office. That's the length to which you stoop. Mueller has butt-fuck nothing on Trump. At this point, it's pretty clear he has butt-fuck nothing. If something can't be manufactured, at some point, he's going to have to come out and say, yeah, Trump didn't collude with the Russians. He didn't even talk. He didn't speak with any Russians in an improper manner. Anything money related, by the way, even Odd says it's from years and years before. Like during his business days, as in, oh yeah, he like took improper money 10 years ago. That's probably the only thing that they're going to be able to get on him. They might not even get that. It'll be around the Manafort period, or like the Flynn talking to the Turks period. Oh, well, he was talking to Turkey, what was it, 2014, I think? Or 2015? It was before Trump threw his hat in the ring. And it's not even Trump. Trump fired both of these people. Mueller, meanwhile, he's getting emails supposedly illegally. His people can't answer the questions that Congress puts before him about, hey, how did you obtain the Pissgate dossier? How did you get the Fusion GPS stuff? No, we can't answer that. We can't tell Congress about, oh, don't worry, we're doing an internal investigation. Don't you find that just slightly suspicious? They don't have anything. The FBI, I think what may have happened is that someone seriously, they looked at like the Pissgate stuff, thought it was real, opened an investigation, realized it was false, and now this is all to cover their ass. Like, oh shit, we need something. Oh, thank goodness Manafort did something bad 10 years ago. Thank goodness Michael Flynn had an inappropriate conversation 5 years ago. Thank goodness that people around Trump, that some of them have done corrupt things. Look, if you did a full, fair, and thorough investigation into Clinton and her inner circle, you'd find plenty of dirt there too. That would probably embroil Clinton herself. At the very least, a bunch of her staffers and cronies, they'd be going to prison. It's par for the course. It's politics. It's what happens. DC is a swamp. Trump, to his credit, I think, fired these people. He fired them during his campaign. Well, was Michael Flynn or were Manafort or Flynn part of his campaign at the end when he actually went? No, he'd gotten rid of them. He'd replaced them. Don't you think there's the vague possibility someone tipped him off? Hey, you might want to let these people go. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I'm not going to say any more because trust me, legally speaking, you don't want to know. As an entirely possible thing. What if Trump is the one that's not corrupt and he's been forcing out corrupt people that have been trying to get around him because they wanted money. They wanted to embezzle and defraud people some more. Well, yeah, it looks like Manafort was spending a lot of time helping Tony Podesta embezzle money. He got rich, made millions and millions of dollars. That's reaching across the aisle. Tony Podesta is a lifelong liberal Democrat. He's the brother of John Podesta himself. Mr. Pizza Lover. He's his brother. He was working with Paul Manafort. They don't care what about party. This is more evidence that the two-party bullshit, it's basically, crap anyway. It's not real. Two-party system doesn't exist. We've got a one-party system. We've got a bunch of cronyists, a bunch of corporate bullshitters who work with big banks and they like to start wars and they siphon money off of the industrial complex all the time. Doesn't matter if they have a D or an R after their name. They'll play nice with these people. They always do, don't they? The proof is in the pudding. Look back at these presidencies. Obama stepping out of the way of the oil industry when sideways fracking is developed. Oh yeah, all of a sudden his environmentalism sort of disappeared now, didn't it? I wonder why. Obama getting money from the same people Romney got money from. Obama basically saying the same things that Mitt Romney said to the point where they were basically the same candidate. Bush getting along very well with the Clintons. After supposedly hating one another's guts for, a decade, all of a sudden they're buddy-buddy. And you know, was it Carolyn Kennedy? She's like friends with the Bushes now too. Don't you find any of that slightly odd? I would hope so. But people love their football games. And be it known that the theatrical bullshit that goes on in D.C. is largely just a sports game to keep you distracted. You're getting hammered and abused and screwed by both of these parties on a regular basis, especially by the bureaucratic monster they've created. And as long as the bureaucratic monster is present, any reformist that is in Congress or in the White House can't do much anyway. Executive, it would be a little bit easier. Like if you assume that Trump is a mild reformer, he can make a little headway, but it's only a little. Because the bureaucracy is against him. It's not even Congress that's the problem. It's the bureaucrats that they enable. So Mueller is full of crap, probably. And his investigation is beginning to grind down. I think at some point, people who are not politically biased are going to realize that a lot of the outrage about Trump is literally just manufactured, that the investigation's probably not going to go anywhere. And all of that soft support that won him the election in the first place will probably climb back aboard his presidency. Look, they had a thing yesterday, I believe. It said, 52% of people think that Trump is bad for the country. So be it. That means that almost half the population doesn't think that. You do realize what that means in electoral terms. That's his hardened support plus his soft support plus a bunch of fence sitters, essentially. That's all you need to win an election. And the Democrats, you look at approval polls of the Democratic Party, they're lower than for the Republican Party. Which, you have to go some to be lower than the Republican Party. The Bush, post-Bush Republican Party is basically totally inept. And yet Trump basically wins by ignoring much of their old platform, going against some of it deliberately and saying, yeah, I'm not going to play nice with all the Republicans. I'm not really a partisan. Some of you are morons, which is totally true. He should have said all of you are morons, other than Rand, Amash, and, half a dozen other people. Should surround himself with the libertarian fringe of the GOP. If he wants more youth appeal, all he has to do is be more visibly buddy-buddy with Rand on a regular basis, and trust me, in an electoral sense, he can get further. That would be my advice to him. It also helps to stave off the establishment has difficulty combating the sort of people that form like Rand's inner circle. Has great difficulty because it's kind of hard to explicitly argue against freedom. It's difficult to sell that to the public unless you've got a war going on. And right now Trump is ignoring the warmongers still for the most part, other than the Syria strike I opposed or the continuation of some of the drone stuff. But then, to his credit, and this is something that nobody was talking about, and I wondered why. He actually is leaning on Saudi Arabia now to stop their embargo in Yemen to allow humanitarian aid through. I wonder why all of the people on the left didn't want to talk about that policy change. You see, Obama loved it when they were, blockaded. Obama thought it was great when people were starving to death. He thought it's great. He thought it was wonderful for 50,000 people, little kids, to get blown apart by his drones. Obama loved his covert wars. It was a wonderful thing for him. That's about all. Peace out.